Well, folks, the 2023 session is officially over. Sine die, the gavel has fallen. The end of session has come and gone. And we're getting a lot of questions from the Missouri Firearms Coalition members on what exactly happened this session, the good, the bad, the ugly, who are our friends, who are our enemies, and what is next this year and then next session in the fight for gun rights. We're going to break all that down for you guys in today's video. There's a lot to go over. I mean, the context here to remember is the elections in 2022. Everyone knows we had phenomenal election results in both the primary and general elections in 2022. Rhinos and radical leftists who had attacked our gun rights for years were slaughtered by gun owners at the polls. And so for a lot of gun owners, it might have been easy to believe that we were going to sail through this 2023 session and accomplish our entire objectives because the word went out, if you screw with gun owners, you're going to pay a price. And while that was partially the case, it was also very much not the case. And it's a good reminder to all of us that if we ever take our foot off the necks of our political opponents in Jeff City in both parties, we're going to wake up one day and we're going to see our gun rights restricted further and further and further here in Missouri. So the background was good with the elections, but then we got off in the session. Now, our goals this session were multiple. Number one, we wanted to protect SEPA legislation no matter what, from a legislative attack on SEPA law, and we accomplished that. The bill was filed by Peter Meredith in the House. The bill was rejected. I think everyone knows right now in Jeff City, if you touch SEPA, it's a lightning rod, and it's going to burn your career to the ground. So we accomplished that goal legislatively. As you know, right now, we're involved in a major legal battle to save SEPA in federal court. More on that in a little bit. But our other main priorities this year were twofold. Number one, we wanted to ban red flag laws here in Missouri altogether. We had the bill filed in both chambers. Senate Bill 10 and House Bill 712 were our bills to do exactly that. It would say that unless there's a criminal conviction, unless a Missourian is legally disqualified from owning firearms, they could never have their guns confiscated. It would ban the enforcement of red flag laws here in Missouri by Missouri cops, similar to the SEPA concept, and have a civil penalty if a jurisdiction violated that law. Again, SB 10 and House Bill 712. Both these bills were heard in committee. Both of these bills were denied the ability to move forward to the floor for a vote. The other main bill we pushed was enhanced stand your ground law. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about here. We've got a version of stand your ground on the books here in Missouri, but our law is weak. And so in Missouri right now, if you use your firearm in a self-defense situation or even threaten to, and the thug runs away, right now in Missouri, we are forced to prove our actions were legal. In other words, we are presumed guilty, and we have to prove our innocence after the fact in a court of law. That's backwards. In America, we believe in the idea of innocent until proven guilty, but not in Missouri when it comes to a self-defense situation. Our bill, SB 43, and House Bill, let me see here, House Bill 46 would give Missourians the same protections that 19 other states have already given in their states, where the gun owner is presumed innocent, and it's the government's job to prove their guilt, our guilt, in a court of law. Again, this is not new. Dozens of states already have this, blue states and red states, but not Missouri. That bill, I'm sad to say, was killed before it ever even had a chance to start. It was blocked from proceeding even to a committee hearing, let alone move out of committee and onto the floor for a vote. So those were our two major offensive pushes, and both of those bills were blocked by leadership in both chambers. And instead of being on offense this session, we found ourselves most of the session in a defensive position, a defensive posture. This is not on accident. The gun grabbers know that if they force us to spend our time blocking gun control, we have less time. You guys have less time, less energy, less money to help us go on the offensive posture to push pro-gun bills. And so ever since Mid-January, days after session began, we dealt with one fight after the next to demonize and criminalize minors here in Missouri who possess handguns. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, minors can't own handguns. Well, I didn't say own handguns. I said possess handguns. Right now in Missouri, you are legally allowed to possess a handgun under the age of 18. And for the radical left, they went berserk over that. The rhino right joined them and went berserk over that. And they spent all session long, from a floor vote in January until an amendment vote just last week, trying to demonize gun owners and say that the problem with crime in St. Louis is not criminals. It's not bad schools. It's not Kim Gardner. It's not failed families, failed churches. It's not cultural. No, it's the fact that law-abiding gun owners can own a firearm under the age, or possess a firearm under the age of 18. And so we had House Bill 301 was a major floor fight all the way back in the committee process beginning in February. HB 301 had a lot of things in it, but one of the main aspects of it was Lane Roberts' attempt to make it a crime for a juvenile to possess a handgun. But not just that, to possess ammo as well that could be used in a handgun. So if your 17-year-old son or daughter was driving down the road in your vehicle or his vehicle, her vehicle, with a box of 22 shells in the vehicle, that'd be a criminal jailable offense. And I want to be clear on this. Lane Roberts is not a Democrat. He is a definition of a rhino backstabbing traitor Republican who was the one leading this. Got a photograph of Lane here somewhere. We'll put it on the screen here above my hand here later on, Lane Roberts. But that wasn't the only thing he was doing. He also allowed amendments to go on House Bill 301 in the committee of which he is the chair that made it a crime to buy ammo here in Missouri unless you had a permit from the Secretary of State. So it'd be complete ammo registration. Again, this is not coming from the Democrats. It came from the Republicans. And I just want to be clear on this. You don't move language like that in committee without having approval from the Speaker of the House. That's how the game is played here in Jeff City and every other state capital across the country. Committee chairmen are under orders to do what they're told to do by leadership. That bill was fixed. Those amendments died, and those parts of the legislation were stripped out of House Bill 301. But that shows you, going back to February, where we were this session with the Republican leadership not trying to advance your gun rights, instead writing amendments trying to weaken your right to keep and bear arms. And that was just the first one. That was House Bill 301. We had House Bill 1277, did a variation of the same thing. We had House Bill 70, did a variation of the same thing. We had SB 217, a variation of the same thing. And we spent all session beating these bills back. In particular, SB 217, a Democrat-filed gun control bill that did what I talked about, was given a hearing in a Republican-controlled Senate General Laws Committee. The same committee, incidentally, that refused to advance anti-red flag laws, that refused to advance enhanced stand your ground law, the same Republican-controlled committee granted a hearing and made it possible to advance this Democrat-filed gun control bill, Senate Bill 217. So that's what we're talking about when we say the rhinos are running the show right now in Jeff City. Many people have asked us, we want names. We want more names. We give you names a lot. Here's some names. Senator Bernskoetter, Senator Searpoy, the two leading names, Republican names, in the General Laws Committee, along with Senator Huff, all three rhinos who worked to give a committee hearing to this gun control bill and who worked to block Senate Bill 10 and Senate Bill 43. These three Republicans joined the radical left and impeded your gun rights at every turn this session in Jeff City. Now, some people have asked us, well, are you sure you guys are not willing to make a compromise? Because after all, the NRA agreed to a compromise this session and said they had no problem with criminalizing minors and possessing firearms. And so why do you guys have a problem with this? Folks, if you don't know by now, the National Rifle Association has turned their back on grassroots gun owners a very, very long time ago. And particularly here in Missouri, up until the end of this session, we have not seen an NRA lobbyist in Jeff City in years. In years. They were absolutely MIA in the fight over SEPA legislation. They absolutely have done nothing to help us fight to defend SEPA in court in the year and a half that's followed. They were opposing constitutional carry way back in the day in 2016. And in general, they have done nothing to help us advance gun rights here in Missouri at all. And now, at the last minute, this session, they tell the Democrats, they tell Senator Roberts, oh, yeah, we're okay with your amendment to criminalize minors who possess handguns. So the answer from our perspective is no, we're never going to be okay with a gun control bill, whether it comes from the left or the right, that demonizes the possession of a firearm. The bottom line is that the crime problem in St. Louis, I'm just going to say it very clearly, it has nothing to do with firearms. The crime problem in St. Louis is because there is systemic, cultural, multi-generational problems with people in St. Louis and in Kansas City and in all the rest of the cities in Missouri and across the country where we have people who are out of control. And that's what we have right now in St. Louis. The crime problem in St. Louis has been enabled by devastatingly ineffective schools, by broken family units, fathers walking out, by horrible lack of money and lack of staffing for our police department, by Kim Gardner, her refusal to prosecute crimes, and then by our various associations, namely our schools, that fill our children with mind-altering psychotropic drugs that make them go through incredible hallucinations, and it cranks them up to a position where violent actions seem normal. And so what we have is an entire system that has enabled the violence that we see these days in St. Louis and in Kansas City and across the rest of our country. And especially in St. Louis, where we have Kim Gardner for a little while longer until she leaves office, she refuses to prosecute criminals. That is why the crime problem in St. Louis is out of control. It's not our problem. It's not our problem. It's not our fault. It's not the Second Amendment's fault, and it's not your fault. But these weak rhino Republicans tried to use the crime problem in St. Louis to demonize you and to demonize our Second Amendment freedoms. And we said from day one, we would never support any legislation that would do that, and we will not do that going forward. So for any rhino who is watching this right now, many of you stopped me in the hallways, many of you pulled me into your office, many of you call us on the phone and said, what version of this language would you accept? The answer is none. The answer is nothing, because guns is not the issue in St. Louis. Guns is not causing the violent crime problem in Kansas City. The problem is being caused in people's hearts and in people's minds, and gun control is not going to solve that problem. All you're going to do is make it a criminal offense for 17-year-olds here in Missouri to shoot a firearm. We'll never, ever accept that. So we defeated all of those bills, and that's a major accomplishment. But at the same time, we should note that, again, we spent this session not on offense, we spent it on defense. And that should be a very big concern to MOFC members and other gun owners, because if we do not continue to step up our game and keep our foot on the necks of the rhinos and the leftists here in Jeff City, we're going to see more and more aggression from that side, and we're going to see a larger and more aggressive push for gun control every year going forward. And so it is vital that MOFC scales up and prepares for a major battle next session, but also, and more importantly, perhaps, a major battle in the 2024 primary elections to remind the rhinos that they will answer for their gun control votes. They'll answer for their refusal to advance our gun rights, and remind them there's a price to be paid for betrayal. Don't forget, Dean Plocker, Speaker of the House, and many people call him Dumb Dean, but I'm just telling you, Dean Plocker has already made it clear he's going to run for lieutenant governor. Caleb Rowden, the Senate Majority Leader, is going to run for Secretary of State. Both of these guys are already made it very clear they're going to run statewide in 2024. And that means that you and I have a delicious opportunity to remind them of what happens to rhinos who attack our gun rights or who will not fight for our gun rights. Just see Eric Greitens, right? So there's a lot more coming, and we have a lot that we can do to put pressure on these guys going forward. But if we do not do this, if we do not hold the line, if we do not put pressure on these guys, we will see them have more and more willingness to attack our gun rights openly here in Missouri. I want to be very clear that we have some major champions in the fight for gun rights here in Missouri. I'm going to mention 4 names in particular, and I want to be clear. We have dozens of pro-gun lawmakers in Jeff City. We have, well, more than that, we have dozens of guys and gals who want to fight for our gun rights here in Jeff City. But we have 4 names that really rose to the top this session. I'm going to mention them. In the Senate, we have Senator Bill Eigel. Senator Eigel was the lead sponsor on Senate Bill 10 and the bill to ban red flag laws. And Bill Eigel has been a leader in the fight for gun rights for a very long time. But this year, he led that charge, sponsored the bill, helped us in committee. The bill was killed by his own Republican rhino comrades in the Capitol. But Bill Eigel stood tall and fought like hell this session for gun rights, especially in the last week of session. Give me one moment to get to that story. But we also have Senator Rick Bratton. Senator Bratton, as everyone knows, is a gun rights leader in Jeff City. He never quits. And Rick Bratton was our lead sponsor this year on SB 43, our bill to enhance stand your ground law. It is a phenomenal bill. We need it very badly. But that bill was blocked from even being heard in committee by Senator Serpoy, Senator Bernskoetter, Senator Huff, and other rhinos and leftists in the Senate General Laws Committee. But both Senator Eigel and Senator Bratton, in particular, in the last 10 days of session, were the reason why we did not see the minors and handguns amendment added onto HB 301 when it came back in the Senate for a final concurrence vote. Those guys stood there in a 7-hour, 8-hour-long filibuster and took nonstop assaults by the left and the rhino right over their refusal to sign off on this amendment, which would harm the Second Amendment. So a big shout out is due to both Senators Eigel and Bratton for their fighting for our gun rights this session. In the House, 2 big names that stand out. Representative Maisie Boyd, freshman state rep Maisie Boyd from Northwest Missouri, has proven herself in just 5 months' time to be a leader in the fight for gun rights here in Missouri. Maisie won a very difficult primary against an entrenched rhino establishment incumbent last August, and then had a very successful session this year fighting for gun rights. Maisie was the lead sponsor on HB 712. Our bill to ban red flags. She was ferocious in the committee process against the Democrats who were trying to attack her for bringing the bill forward. And she fought all session on the floor with amendments trying to fix the pistol brace problem and various issues. Representative Maisie Boyd, as a freshman in particular, really stood tall this year in the fight for gun rights. And finally, Representative Bill Hardwick. Bill Hardwick, not a freshman, but Bill scaled up his fight for gun rights in a major way this year. He led the amendment fight to strip all the gun control I mentioned out of House Bill 301 in the House back in January and February. And he was there all session to advance our legislation to end or ban red flags this year as well. So again, Maisie Boyd, Bill Hardwick, those 2 stood really tall this session in the fight for gun rights in the House. So where do we stand going forward? Well, we're adjourned for the rest of this calendar year, but we still have a major fight on our hands in our legal battle to save SAPA legislation here in Missouri. We're going to have more information on this in the very coming days and maybe a week or 10 days from now. But we have amicus briefs that are due very, very quickly with the circuit court here in Missouri. So guys, if you could donate below and help us get our legal defense budget fully funded. We've done this a lot. You guys have helped us a lot, but each time we do this, we have to replenish the coffers. We have fought to save SEPA in the lower courts. We fought to save SEPA at the state Supreme Court, fought to save SEPA in federal district court. And now, for the fourth time, the fight has moved up to federal circuit court, likely going to be heard in St. Louis. We must engage at this level because we have a much more favorable outcome likely at this level than what Judge Wimes, the leftist Obama-appointed judge, gave us in Kansas City. But this is not cheap, and this is not easy. And our legal team needs the resources they need to draft these amicus briefs and get them filed in time. So, guys, if you want to donate towards that fight, donate. If you want to donate to help us go after rhinos here in Missouri for that reason, donate. If you want to donate to help us keep expanding our gun rights going forward with anti-red flag laws and senior ground law and more, donate. But if we don't stand together, if we don't hold the line, we're going to see the rhinos emboldened, the radical left emboldened, and we're going to pay the price down the road, as will our kids and our grandkids, as we will see our gun rights weakened one step at a time. We will not let that happen, guys, but please stand with us. Hit the link, donate, or join today. Guys, more to come. Thank you for all of your support this session, your donations, your phone calls to the Capitol, your emails to the Capitol, your trips to the Capitol. Your pressure was heard. That is how we stopped Republican-backed gun control this session in Jeff City. Guys, thank you so much. Share our video. Join the fight today at joinmofc.com, and we'll keep you guys informed. Take care.